everybody. This is Todd Dewey from Ice Road Truckers on the History Channel, and I love to listen to TNCRadio.LIVE.
For the latest in traffic, weather, and information, catch the Morning Grind weekdays right here on TNCRadio.LIVE. Welcome in TNCRadio.LIVE. This is let's try that one more time, shall we, guys? We're gonna take that from the top one more time in 3, 2, 1. Welcome in TNCRadio.LIVE. This is Clutch Time Sports, and here are your hosts, Ivan and Josh.
Well, thank you, Mr. Tom Kelly, and good evening, everyone, all you wonderful truckers on the road on a very humid day here in Southern California. I'm your co-host, Ivan Anderson, along with sidekick, my man, JB, Josh Banker. Josh, how you feeling tonight, man?
Well, I think we should probably preface the fact that we say humid, and we're just living the really rough life with our 36% humidity out here. You know, whereas I know Tom in Texas, I'm sure, is at least double or triple that. So, I mean, it feels humid to us because we like our dry heat out here in the West Coast. But don't get me back to Atlanta or Ohio, where my family is, for any long periods of time during the summer. No thanks. I'll take that.
Hey, you know what? The thing is, I grew up in humidity, so this 37%, I don't mind it. Remember when I was back there visiting Michigan, my man, I was dealing with sometimes 70 and 80% humidity. So I'll take
Tom
this.
Tom is flashing across the screen right now. 82% humidity.
82%.
They're in Texas. Well, I mean, that's going to happen though when you get thunderstorms in the area too. I mean, but although I'm sure it's going to be, maybe 5% less humidity if there weren't, rain in the forecast.
Yeah, it is. And we actually were going to start the segment on the GOAT, Serena Williams, but we are going to save that for our Trey Rang segment, our primetime segment on that. So JB, we'll get into some detail.
Yeah, we'll get into more details on that in our third segment during Trey Rangs. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting next couple of weeks or a month or so between now and the end of the U.S. Open, when she's apparently going to be hanging them up after that tournament. And considering she only played one round of Wimbledon back about a month or so ago, it'll be interesting to see how she does in Flushing or out in New York for the U.S. Open for sure. I think we might have actually lost Ivan's audio. Not sure where he is, but thank you all for checking us out. Clutch Time Sports. You can check us out on the Gram or on Twitter at Clutch Time TNC. Check us out. Shoot us a shout out. Hey, there's Ivan.
Welcome back. Apologize. A little bit of technical difficulty there, but I fixed it myself. But yeah, and going on what you were saying about, I said Flushing Metals, and Serena Williams, and that's going to be exciting to talk about her. She is the GOAT, and we're going to have a good segment on that. But JB, here we go again. I don't know if this is round 4, round 5, but the whole LIVE Tour in PGA are back in the news. This is a story that just will never die. Can somebody please?
It really is the gift that keeps on giving, Clark. It's better than like the Jelly of the Month Club, if you ask me.
So a judge in the U.S. District Court denied a motion Tuesday after the 3 LIVE golf members seeking to participate in the FedEx Cup playoff, giving the PGA Tour the first victory in the legal battle between the tour and the Saudi-backed circuit. And this is really sad because this lawsuit was filed by Phil Mickelson, Bryson DeChambeau, I can't say it in English because I think French too much in my head, DeChambeau, and 9 others. basically brought this lawsuit. Besides that lawsuit against the PGA Tour, 3 players, Taylor Gooch or Gouch, I apologize for that, and I just wanted to say he's got a strange name there. I love it, but Hudson Swafford and Matt Jones basically attempted to get a temporary restraining order against the PGA Tour so they could play in the FedEx St. Jude's Championship in Memphis. And Gouch and Swafford and Jones had argued that the tour had inflicted irreparable harm, JB, by keeping the players who had been suspended by the tour for their participation in live or live golf events out of the tour's postseason. Now, the funniest thing about this that I don't get the PGA Tour is that we're talking about golf more than we've ever talked about golf outside of talking about Tiger Woods. I mean, I have never seen golf in the headlines like I've seen it. And the judge who had this ruling, he went on to say, it was really funny the way he talked about it, but he said, Jay Monahan's ability to have absolute say in suspending players while questioning if someday, and he said this, he questioned if someday, and when he says the tour, he's talking about the PGA Tour, would be the party filing antitrust action against the Live Golf Tour. So these guys both came up with these 2-hour spectacle arguments back and forth, basically supporting each other. I mean, it was so funny. Live Golf and the PGA Tour, they were just seeming to make cases that supported the other one. And JB, I just have this question for you. Things are changing. Things are going to be changing in professional tennis, and things are already starting to change very quickly in golf. More and more PGA golfers are signing with Live. I believe Taylor Gouch did sign his $100 million contract. I believe that was talked about either earlier today, or on Tuesday. But I just see more and more dominoes falling for the PGA Tour in the whole Live Tour. And one more thing. The funniest thing is that the upcoming London tour that they have planned is a $25 million purse, where the $4 million goes to the winner, but the remainder money is split up between 48 players. Whereas for the PGA FedEx Championship, there's only $20 million up for grab, and that purse is being split between 144 players. I'm sorry, JB. Money is money is money. And let's be honest, that's what professionals play for, not just the hardware, but for that paycheck.
Yeah, they say money talks and bull walks, right? So, I mean, if you get somebody like Taylor Gooch, who's going to be offered $100 million to go play on top of winning, purses for his play. And it feels like we've talked about this ad nauseum. And I know you and I talked about this before we even went on the air today, but after that court decision came out, Rory McIlroy was talking about how, I'm so glad this decision came out. Now this sideshow won't be happening as we're out to talk about, or to go put the focus actually back on golf. I find that laughable because, as you kind of were intimating at the start of the story, that there is a new chapter written in this book. It feels like every week. I mean, there's been so many things that have been happening over the last few months outside of the world of golf. We even touched on the fact that it was confirmed that Tiger Woods got offered $700+ million to disassociate himself basically with the PGA and go over to the Live Tour. And I don't really know what the next domino to fall will be per se, because there are new golfers every week that keep going and talking about either defecting, so to speak, over to Live or whatever the case may be. But it is fascinating. Like you said, we've talked about golf more over the last 2 months, and I think we've ever talked about golf outside of Tiger Woods's, either antics or his play on the course. So it's going to be really interesting to see as the FedEx Cup or the playoffs the FedEx playoffs, take place over the next month or so, and how much that is going to be influenced by more talk about LIVE and how they may be putting together some sort of, end of the year playoffs like that too. I mean, who knows? The sky's the limit at this point. It's going to be really, really interesting to see.
And here was some of the things that the representatives made their case for in the courtroom, which I thought was interesting. The LIVE Golf legal representative called the FedEx Cup the Super Bowl of golf, whereas the PGA Tour representative claimed the LIVE Golf event at Trump Bedminster had more elite players than the field at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. I mean, think about that. That's the kind of arguments they were trying to make in court, which basically supported each other of this situation. I think at the end of the day, they're going to wind up having to live with each other in this situation. And like I said, this is not just happening in golf. This is starting to advance in professional tennis. And let's think about this. We're talking about two sports where you are an individual versus an actual team. Well, that's it. We'll be right back after this commercial or after Tom talks to us about hazard on the road. You listen to Clutch Time Sports on TNCRadio.LIVE.
As a professional driver, the engineers at Front Lane know that you remain focused on the road regardless of weather and traffic conditions. That's not always true of the drivers behind you. Every 9 minutes, another commercial vehicle is rear-ended by a driver failing to control their speed. And guess who gets the blame? When you have to brake quickly, Tailbone illuminates a series of bright red LED lights that allow the driver behind you to react up to 50% faster. Using amazing accelerometer technology and a battery that will last for years, Tailbone meets the standard set by the NHTSA and the FMCSA. Learn more by visiting www.frontlane.com/tailbone. That's www.frontlane.com/tailbone. Approved in all 50 states. It's Tailbone by Frontlane.
Space in a semi-truck is limited. A majority of truck drivers spend a good portion of their careers living on the road. Trying to fit all the necessary home items, personal products, work documents, and food in a tiny truck cab can be a challenge. Staying organized on the road helps you stay more productive and comfortable. It also helps to be organized in the event of a DOT inspection. The Truckers Network has 5 helpful organization tips for truck drivers. Storage containers. Storage containers are inexpensive and come in a variety of different sizes. Depending on the size, you can fit a storage container in many different places. Make sure to measure the container before buying to ensure you maximize your space. You'll want to use every bit of your cab. Some items you can put in the containers include canned or dry food, water, cleaning supplies, exercise equipment, and toiletries. Some of our recommended storage containers include Iris USA TB42 12-quart stack and pull box, Itemy 6-pack plastic storage baskets, weight trim foldable shoe box. Command hooks. Command hooks are a great way to maximize your space and keep things off the floor. Install a couple command hooks and you can hang your everyday coat, hat, or bag. Here's a pro tip. Use Velcro to attach to containers or different items so they don't slide around while driving on bumpy roads. Some of our recommended command hooks include Command Small Wire Hooks, 16 hooks, 24 strips, Photo Snow Adhesive Hooks, Ultra Strong Wall Hangers and Hooks, Budding Joy Adhesive Heavy Duty Hooks, Over-the-Door Shoe Organizer. An over-the-door shoe organizer is great for keeping your closet and your truck cab organized. Instead of storing shoes, store your cleaning supplies, personal items, and some clothes. Check out our recommended shoe organizers. 24 pockets, simple houseware crystal clear over-the-door hanging shoe organizer. Aristocrat Homeware's over-the-door shoe rack and closet organizer system with 24 extra-large heavy-duty pockets. Shower caddies. Truck stop showers are a place you'll often be. Having a shower caddy full of your shower routine necessities will help ensure you have everything you need. Forgetting your toiletries will have you buying some at the truck stop or running back out to your truck. Shower caddies are also great for holding condiments, drinks, and dinnerware. Some of our recommended shower caddies include Greenbrier Small Utility Shower Caddy Tote, 7-pocket Shower Caddy Tote. Labels. Because there's limited space in a semi-cab, most of your things will be in containers. Investing in a label maker is a great way to organize your storage containers and drawers. It also makes it easy to find what you need. Check out some of our recommended labels and label makers. They include Dymo LetraTag 100H Plus handheld label maker, address labels 2.625 by 1 pack of 3,000 labels.
Join Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time for Women Road Warriors on your driver navigation station, TNCRadio.LIVE.
All right.
The rest of the story. Dick Williams was a natural athlete. Born to American parents in Geneva, Switzerland more than a century ago, he grew up enamored of all sorts of sports, including, of course, winter ones. And then at 21 came the terrible boating mishap. Dick's boat was swamped. The oarsmen continued to row as best they could, but accumulating water bogged them down, and the water was so cold that many of the crew became hypothermic. First ankle deep, then nearly waist deep in what felt like solid ice. The men labored until all hands at the oars grew stiff and numb. The oarsman behind Dick Williams, freezing and tired, asked if he might rest his arm on Dick's shoulder. Dick said sure. He scarcely noticed the man's grip gradually loosening until minutes later he toppled overboard, dead. And others followed. 2 casualties had to be thrown overboard. The survivors, hoping the reduced weight would lower the water line. It did, but not enough to make much of a difference. The oarsman behind the powerful young Norwegian, Olos Abelseth, exclaimed, "I'm cramping, I can't go on." And then hunching forward, the stricken fellow wrapped his arms around Abelseth. Later, Dick had to help pry the Norwegian loose from the dead man's grasp. It seemed a frigid forever before the surviving oarsmen reached safety, and yet among those who lived to tell, Dick Williams faced the greatest challenge. The doctor reported that the tissue damage to Dick's legs was so extensive they must be amputated. "What happens if they're not?" the young man asked. The doctor's countenance grew grave. "You could die," he said. Dick sank back in bed. "Let me think about it a while," he murmured, to which the doctor admonished, "Not too long." Well, it did not take long for Dick to decide, for shortly after the doctor left the room, the young man was sitting up and then wriggling to the edge of the bed and then dangling his legs over the side, and before long he was on his feet, hobbling painfully, trying desperately to exercise the devastated limbs. Every 2 hours, day and night, Dick struggled to his feet and did the same for days and weeks, and thus did he escape the surgeon's knife and go on to realize his destiny among the most remarkable in international athletics any time, anywhere. The world of competitive tennis continues to revere the name of Richard Norris Williams II, one of the outstanding players of his time and all time. For included among his 18 prestigious titles are 2 U.S. singles championships, 2 U.S. doubles championships, a Wimbledon doubles, a U.S. mixed, and 6 Davis Cup championships. Dick Williams made world top 10 7 times, U.S. top 10 12 times, won an Olympic gold medal in 1924, and in 1957 he was inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame. But the next time you hear his oft-mentioned name, will you remember this? That one night in April of 1912, those strong, fast legs were nearly frozen off in a slowly sinking lifeboat. That's right. 21-year-old Dick Williams, en route to the United States and a Harvard education, was nearly the 1,524th victim of a North Atlantic disaster the world knows as the sinking of the Titanic. Only now you know the rest of the story.
JB, I have no idea where Tom pulled that out of his hat. That was incredible. And we're talking about a little bit of tennis, although we're going to go through it in our third segment with Trey Rangs. But Richard Norris Williams II, that's amazing. I mean, I honestly have to say I don't know anything about him, and I just quickly try to look him up and see a little bit about him. He was born January 29th, 1891. It's amazing. That is just amazing to me.
And I'm sure there are 1,000 plus more stories of others that were on the Titanic and stuff too that we could talk about. But yeah, I mean, that's remarkable. I did not know the rest of that story.
I think he was the only one who was on the Titanic who won an Olympic gold medal.
I believe you are correct. In 1924, and the a gold medalist in the mixed doubles, partnering with Hazel, Hotchkiss, Whiteman. So that's amazing. I think when we talk about the Titanic, and I'm not trying to get off sports here, but we always talk about it in a situation that everybody died or something, but there were a lot of survivors on the Titanic. It sunk, but there was a lot of survivors there. I'm just amazed at that story. I mean, I love tennis, JB. My daughter plays tennis. I enjoy it. I enjoy watching her, compete and try to get better. And there's something about professional women's tennis that people just enjoy. And I know we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but when I think about Serena Williams, I don't know if I can watch tennis the same way when she's not going to be there.
Well, and what's interesting is as I was putting together Trey Rangs for tonight, I looked at some videos that were compilations of champions from different decades. And of course, sports evolve, throughout many, many decades. But even just going back to the 80s and 90s, which doesn't seem like a long time ago, but is much longer ago than I want to admit, it's such a different game. It's an evolution of technology, for one, just with even regards to the equipment, making things so much different now than it used to be. But you would never see somebody like Serena Williams and her power even 30 years ago. I mean, right before she started, there was very, very few people you could go out on a women's tennis court and go, wow, she is just out hammering everybody. We kind of started talking about Jennifer Capriati back in the day. Remember her and her power but just the whole trend of how women's tennis has evolved over the last 30 years has been remarkable.
I like when you talked about I like when you talked about how technology has changed things and how things have, I think about golf, and I'm kind of bringing this up because we just talked about it. I learned how to play golf on my grandfather's clubs, and those were wood shaft clubs. Yep. And I was talking with my brother when we were, at home, and I said, man, I always wondered what happened to those clubs. And he goes, I learned how to play on the same ones that you played on. We still have them. And you think of how you go from wood shafts to, you got the metal shafts, and now you use graphite shafts. I mean, it just keeps getting better and better and better. And then when you take a superiority talent, whatever the sport is, and you combine that, and it's just devastating.
Well, and you got to remember, especially individual sports that were more, I want to say recreation, like golf, there weren't like athletes. I mean, let's be real. There wasn't anybody that was a Bryson DeChambeau and his figure, his stature. I mean, it was a game for casual people to go out and play. Now, that doesn't diminish the greatness of a lot of the early golfers or tennis players, but obviously you've got to be an athlete of some sort to play tennis one way or the other. It doesn't really matter. But again, the power game, especially on the women's side, has come to a point now where it's you have to have it. Before, you could be a serve and volley player and not have to worry about hitting a 100-mile-an-hour serve. Now, if you don't have a 100-mile-an-hour serve in a women's tennis game, you're behind the 8 ball.
You are. It is definitely advanced. It's so funny you mentioned Bryson's name. You know, he did win the U.S. Open in 2020, so that kind of puts a little salt in an open wound for the PGA Tour. But I don't know. I just enjoy watching women's tennis at that level. It's just so much fun. And like I said, I know we're out there getting ahead of ourselves. We actually had Tom to put the Paul Harvey's tennis segment on, and I just had to I just keep thinking about it. I don't know if I'm ready for her to retire. I know she's ready, but I don't think I am.
And it really is kind of hard to believe that she's 40 years old now. How many? And back in the day when, like, Martina Navratilova was, a superior women's tennis player, she was up there in age as well. But I mean, again, she didn't have the strength and serve and power that Serena Williams has had. So for her to last as long as she has with the power and the physical ability that she's needed to carry that, it's remarkable.
It is. It really is. JV, take us out.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Check us out again at Clutch Time TNC on Instagram and the Twitter, of course. We'll be right back with Trey Rings. You're listening to Clutch Time Sports right here on TNCRadio.LIVE.
Join Tom Kelly and the rest of the team each day on the Morning Grind. Then stay tuned for an encore presentation of last night's Landline Now. Weekdays on TNCRadio.LIVE.
Hi, I'm Dr. Christopher Cortman, and now for the Mental Health Minute. Some time ago, I was having dinner with friends and noted that one of the gentlemen at the table kept bringing the conversation back to one of his big victories. And every time we would move on to something else, he would find another reason to bring things back to the time he succeeded so much. And it occurred to me that he wasn't happy unless all of the attention and all the focus was on him. There's a word we're throwing around an awful lot today in popular culture called narcissism. And the question is, are you a narcissist? Are you in love with a narcissist? What is a narcissist? Well, a narcissist is someone that goes all the way back to Greek mythology, where someone named Narcissus was always looking at his reflection in the water. A pretty self-absorbed dude. But there are characteristics of a narcissistic personality disorder that we should all know. For instance, a narcissist thinks that they're above the law, above the rules. Those things don't pertain to me. I can come in late if I want to, or I could go right to the front of the line. Don't have to wait. After all, I'm a surgeon. A narcissist also has very little sympathy or empathy for others. There's just not a lot of thought, not a lot of feeling extended to other people. And again, a lot of boredom unless things are built around me. And they surround themselves with people who admire them, love them, worship them. And sometimes we find out in a relationship that two people are in love with the same person, the narcissist. So what do you do if you are a narcissist? Or what do you do if you're involved with a narcissist? I mean, can narcissists change? Well, I'm one of those psychologists that believe that just about anybody can change if they're invested in making changes. Most narcissists don't show up for treatment because they think the world should change. The world's unfair to them. They don't see that the problem is deeply embedded in their own personality. But yeah, it can be changed. One has to change their way of how they think of other people. And they have to change their way of how they think about the world, and they have to change the way they think about themselves. But what if you're involved with a narcissist? Well, there's two basic options here. One is to accept that you're involved with a narcissist and that they're going to continue to be like this, and maybe it's not a good idea to stay in that relationship because you're not getting a lot of love or care yourself. But the other one is to insist, because they're a narcissist, that they get some help and make some changes, or else you'll be moving on. But the other one is to insist, because they're a narcissist, that they get some help and make some changes, or else you'll be moving on and looking to be involved with someone who has the capacity and the willingness, not getting a lot of love or care yourself. But the other one is to insist, because they're a narcissist, that they get some help and make some changes, or else you'll be moving on and looking to be involved with someone who has the capacity and the willingness to care about you.
This is TNCRadio.LIVE.
Welcome back to Clutch Time Sports. I'm your co-host, Ivan Anderson, along with Boy JB, Josh Banker. And it is that third segment that we love to hear. And we started off with our good friend, Michael Irving, Dallas Cowboys wide receiver. And that is because, JB, in the past 4 years, we done won Trey rings.
Well, I'm going to keep saying this as every week, each and every week, because if you're just joining us for the first time, A, where have you been? But B, thank you for listening as well. These are three things that make us laugh, make us smile, because sports can be, it could be chaotic. It could be nerve-wracking, frustrating, but it's fun. Sports is supposed to be fun. And so here are three things this week that made us smile or make us laugh. This is Trey Ranks. So Ivan usually is not privy to what I'm going to talk about in Trey Ranks because I want his genuine response. But Ivan, I'm going to give you a choice today. We know which one we're going to end with because we've been teasing it all day, which is Serena Williams. But would you like to talk about or want to hear the story about the Little League first or the Major Leagues first?
Little League first.
Little League first.
Great.
Okay, so as you all know, we're right in the middle of all the qualifying for the Little League World Series out in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. And if you have been anywhere near Facebook, YouTube, whatever the case may be, this is a very viral story that's been going on. And knowing our illustrious Tom Kelly, I'm sure he's probably already got the video lined up. Not that you could see it, but anyway. In the Southwest Regional Championship game between Texas East and Oklahoma, in the first inning with 2 on and 2 out, Texas East pitcher Caden Shelton threw an 0-2 fastball that hit Oklahoma's Isaiah Jarvis in the head. Jarvis's helmet flew off, and he immediately hit the ground, clutching his head. Now, thankfully, Jarvis escaped injury, walked to first on his own. He was just fine. Thankfully, the helmet, kept him from anything serious. Now, unfortunately, at the mound, Shelton, the pitcher, was visibly shaken by the pitch that he had thrown and looking down at the mound in tears. As Jarvis reached first base, he noticed Shelton was upset, calmly took off his helmet and walked to the mound to console him, and he gave him a hug. Shelton's coaches and teammates joined them on the mound as Jarvis, who got hit by the pitch, said, "Hey, you're doing just great. Let's go." The moment drew a standing ovation from the Waco, Texas crowd, and despite Oklahoma getting 4 runs in that inning, East Texas would walk away with a 9-4 win to advance to Williamsport in the Little League World Series. So, Ivan, sportsmanship is not dead. When did we ever lose that innocence, really, and realize that we're not all as big time as we think we are in sports, but congrats to Texas East and Oklahoma for providing us with a reminder of what sportsmanship really is, and that we just get to play a game.
It was so beautiful. I mean, I watched that over and over and over, and I actually was watching the game because I've been paying attention to the Little League World Series. I love it. You know, you always get someone that you'd never heard of that comes out of it. And when that pitch came across, it hit him, and it hit him right in the forehead.
Yeah. Right above the ear almost. Yeah.
Yeah. And I couldn't tell, did the ball force the helmet off, or did he just lose on his way down?
Well, but I think it was probably a little bit of both, but yeah.
It shocked me, but when he went to first base, and the pitcher couldn't even pitch. He couldn't throw another pitch. And you know what? That's also being a child. You know, the thing that we need to learn from children is children are so kind-hearted, and they can be mad. And we all remember this being a child. We can be mad at our friends and be back on our bikes playing with them 15 minutes later.
For sure. So that was Rang number 1. Now let's go to the majors, Ivan, for Rang number 2.
Oh boy.
Now, I know there is no room for sad news in Trey Rangs, but the Cleveland Guardians made a roster move that had some people scratching their head. I don't know if you saw this, but at every Guardians home game, there is a Sugardale hot dog race between ketchup, mustard, and onion. So after 50 races, Mustard is winless. He hasn't won a single condiment race in 2022. So the Guardians have designated him for assignment and officially sent him down to their high Class A team in Lake County. Now, I mention this every week. Go look this up. There's video and everything. It's fantastic. Props to the Cleveland Guardians promotional team. Now, no corresponding move was made, so no word if, chili or sauerkraut or sauteed peppers are getting the call up from the minors that they've been dreaming of. But still, it's sad to see the Guardians officially cut the mustard.
Ooh.
You're welcome. That's your eye roll Rang of the day right there. All right, now to the one we've all been teasing this entire show. It feels like it's been the summer of goats and not the bad ones. The good goats, the greatest of all time. And we've talked about a number of them already in our first 9 episodes. Can you believe this is episode 10 already, by the way, Ivan?
It's crazy.
Yesterday, Serena Williams announced her intentions to step away from tennis at the age of 40 after the upcoming U.S. Open. And let's put this into perspective. Williams has 23 Grand Slam titles, which is the most in the Open era, and second most all-time behind Margaret Court, which is, by the way, probably the most appropriate last name in all of sports.
Yes.
She'll have a chance to tie Court if she can win the U.S. Open here in a few weeks, but it'll be a tall task considering she lost in the first round of Wimbledon earlier this summer. Now, does Williams get the recognition she deserves as the best female tennis player of all time, or is she maybe even overshadowed a little bit, Ivan, by the enormity of the trio of Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic that have kind of paralleled her career? Well, if the 23 Grand Slam titles aren't enough, how about going 14-0 in Grand Slam women's doubles championships, which were all with her sister Serena, by the way, where only 4 times in those 14 matches did they even lose a set. That's how dominant they were as doubles tennis players. She holds a record 7 Australian Open wins and is the only tennis player, male or female, to win 3 of the 4 Grand Slams and become the first to accomplish a career Grand Slam when she won a gold medal in singles and doubles in the Olympics in the same year in 2012 in London. It's funny sometimes, I think we've kind of already pointed at this many times tonight, how we take for granted how good some of these players are.
Oh my goodness.
Until they start calling it the end of their career. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Trey Rangs for tonight. So, Ivan, let's dig into this. Serena Williams, as you mentioned, is basically calling it quits. And honestly, she hasn't put on a full-time schedule in the last couple years, really, after having the birth of her child and everything like that. But we have talked ad nauseum tonight about her power and everything that she's represented as far as advancing the game of women's tennis. But the fact is, I don't think she still even gets enough credit for all that she's done, especially with all these different Grand Slam championships and winning with her sister, gold medal, all this different stuff. We've talked about GOATs all summer with Sue Bird and Bill Russell last week, but Serena Williams is easily got to be on top of that list.
When I think about her, and you just mentioned all of her accolades. I mean, you can't state it more. I mean, 23 Grand Slams, and like you said, the year that she won doubles in the Olympics and singles in the Olympics. I mean, that's crazy. She has 14 major. Well, that's the double championship, but she has 4 Olympic gold medals. And the thing is, we all have to remember, when you dedicate yourself to something like this, you dedicate yourself all the way through. I mean, she's been playing tennis. She made mention in the Vogue article that she's been playing tennis since she was 3 years old. And she turned pro at 14 in 1995. That's a lot of tennis. And it's so rare to find people that could dedicate themselves to that degree. And she did it. She absolutely did it.
What's crazy, too, is that, everybody always talks about, oh, there's never going to be the next Michael Jordan. There's never going to be the next, fill in the blank. But the fact is, there's going to be the next Serena Williams. Maybe it's not the same kind of iteration of Serena Williams down the road, but it's not going to be easy, and it's going to take a long time to realize that Serena Williams was that good until somebody of her caliber, one of her peers down the road, perhaps gets to even being close to where she's at with her numbers.
Well, think about it. She won her last Grand Slam in 2017. That was her last one. That was 5 years ago. Yeah. So think about how old she was. And we're talking about a sport where you're considered, until Serena and Venus and a lot of the other players, you were considered old by the time you got to 32, 33 years old in tennis. And you tend to retire in your early 30s. But what's happening today is, because people are facing so much burnout, they're starting at such a young age to become professionals in this sport, that you're finding people I'm going to college, and then I'm going to try my hand at being a professional tennis. I'm playing tennis in college, and I'm going to try my hand. I mean, we had, over the last 4 years, we've had winners in their first time, to advance to the semifinals, and they're in their late 20s. So I think that's exciting for tennis to see Serena and Venus at this age and say, you know what? I don't have to just never have a life. And that was one of the things she made clear in Vogue. She goes, I never had a life. It's been tennis since the age of 3. I turned pro at 14 years old. I'm retiring just short of 41 years old. You can live a life, go to college, play tennis in college, enjoy yourself, and then try being a professional athlete. But it's a lot, and it does require you giving up and sacrificing a lot. And JB, one more thing real quick. She made a very good point in that article, and she made a good point as she was talking to some of the sports writers. She said, look, men don't have to make this decision. I never wanted to make a decision between, and I'm paraphrasing it, between my career in tennis and being, and my family. And if you're a man, well, your wife is at home taking care of the kids, so you just get to play and tennis, do whatever you want to do as long as you want to. I don't have that same luxury.
Amen. I actually have a question I want to ask you about this whole subject, but let's save that for after this break. You're listening to Clutch Time Sports right here on TNCRadio.LIVE.
Trucking Moves America Forward, or TMAF. is boosting the image of the industry by telling the story of trucking, and your story can be part of it. Upload a photo, tell us what you love about trucking, or send us a story about a good deed or charitable act in trucking. Be sure to follow us on social media and contact us through truckingmovesamerica.com. That's truckingmovesamerica.com.
This blog on TNCRadio.LIVE is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. Quick and healthy meals for truckers. Life on the road can make it challenging for truckers to find a healthy meal. Truckers are on the go and sometimes on a strict time frame to get their loads delivered on time. Stopping at a truck stop for fast food sounds like the most convenient option. Although it may be more convenient, eating unhealthy gas station food can take a toll on one's health. Plus, it can be more expensive. Stopping at a grocery store and picking up healthy foods can benefit truckers in many ways. Eating healthy improves mood, health, and well-being. Consider investing in appliances like a cooler, slow cooker, lunchbox, or a microwave. This will make eating healthy on the road much easier. Breakfast. The most important meal of the day, especially for truckers. Eating a good breakfast helps keep your energy up. Oatmeal is a quick and easy healthy breakfast. You can make it in under 3 minutes, and it's easy to store in your cabin. Tip: adding some fresh fruits and nuts in your oatmeal can make it even more delicious. Yogurt makes a great breakfast. It's high in protein and can keep you full for a long time. Try adding some fruits, nuts, and honey. Toast and peanut butter. You'll need a toaster or a toaster oven for this one. Peanut butter contains high levels of protein, fiber, and healthy fats. It also gives you endless energy. Protein bars are the quickest breakfast option. It's safe to eat while driving. If you're in a hurry, protein bars will make a great breakfast. Lunch. It can be very tempting to pull over and stop at your favorite restaurant. Lunchtime's a great opportunity to make healthier choices. Some favorite healthy lunch meals are the bento box lunch with loads of healthy, clean foods. It's quick and easy, too. Burrito bowls are full of fresh veggies and just take 10 minutes to make. Ham sandwich, a classic, easy lunch. Chicken salad takes about 30 minutes to prepare, but it's well worth it. Serve it on lettuce or any type of bread you like. Dinner? This is where a slow cooker will definitely come in handy. Honey garlic chicken veggies is the easiest one-pot recipe ever. Hardly takes any effort at all. Beef stew makes a great dinner. You can enjoy it all year round. Whole roasted chicken in your slow cooker's a recipe every trucker should try. It's delicious and can keep you fed for a couple of days. Ground beef and potatoes are amazing and will only take you about 15 minutes to prepare. This blog was brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net.
Catch Landline Now every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, along with an encore presentation weekdays at noon, right here on TNCRadio.LIVE.
Welcome back. Clutch Time Sports. Josh Banker alongside Ivan Anderson. Thank you again for joining us. Check us out on Twitter and Instagram at Clutch Time TNC. Ivan, we left last segment talking about Serena Williams and her decision to basically hanging things up after the end of the U.S. Open tournament here around Labor Day weekend. But one of the things I wanted to ask you about while we have a few minutes left is the fact that while I believe it's going to be really hard to have the athletic ability, but also the mental ability to replicate the numbers that she's put up over her career, how do you think somebody is going to be able to do that in the societal world that we live in with media and everything else? We've seen what it's done to Naomi Osaka and other players that have had to take time off because they're burnt out. How are you going to be able to sustain a 20-plus year career like Serena did to be able to get even close to those numbers that she's put up?
You're going to have a lot of mental toughness, and with all honesty, I don't necessarily know if it can be done. And Doc Rivers did a really good job of explaining. He did a comparable between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. And one of the things he said, when Michael came into the NBA, no one knew what Michael could do. They didn't have all this attention on him and his ability, and he was able to grow and surprise us in his ability. Whereas LeBron James was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and I believe the title read something like The Chosen One, And he said the most remarkable thing about LeBron James is if you read that article of what they had expected him to accomplish, not only did he accomplish it, but he actually succeeded it. He exceeded that which the article was written about him. And that's the most incredible thing that LeBron James was ever to do. Now, in getting back to tennis, with all of this situation, the media like it is, which reason why we wanted to start our own sports show, because it's so negative, I don't think it's going to happen unless you have mental toughness that's at the Michael Jordan level, the Serena Williams level, just those athletes that have an incredible level of mental toughness.
Yeah, because I think with the way technology and stuff is, the ability for these athletes to take care of their body better is going to give them the chance to, at longevity in their sport, assuming no catastrophic injuries. But the mental toughness of this, I think, is way more exceeding than it used to ever be. And is going to be even tougher as the years go on. It's going to be really, really tough to put into perspective the greatness of Serena Williams until we get somebody that gets close to her numbers.
You mentioned during our break, we were talking off air, you talked about Naomi Osaka. Naomi Osaka just had in her own way a nervous breakdown.
Yep.
She could not take it. You also mentioned on one of our other segments, Jennifer Capriati. At 16, she went kind of off the rails a little bit. So the scrutiny that you are under in today's world with all the social platforms and the more or hyphen negativity of the journalists is absolutely ridiculous. And I just can't see it. I just can't see it. Not saying it can't happen, but from where I sit right now, just that mental toughness, I can't see it. But anyways, real quick, JB, it is time for the checkered flag and finish line. So we need to know what's coming up in the world of
sports. We're kind of in that little deadpan area. We don't have NBA, we don't have NHL, we don't have football, sort of, kind of yet. Tomorrow is the next Field of Dreams game, however, over in Dyersville, Iowa. This year it'll be featuring the Cincinnati Reds and the Chicago Cubs, two iconic franchises. Ivan, will you watch this game with those two teams playing, even as bad as they are?
Yes.
You will.
Absolutely. Oh, like I told you off air, Little League, World Series, and the Field of Dreams is just neat. Cool.
Yeah, something about it is definitely magical, but it'll be interesting to see how the magic could wear off potentially, knowing that, like last year, they had the White Sox, who was actually part of the original Field of Dreams story, obviously, because it was about Chula's Joe Jackson, but they also had the Yankees playing too. So, the novelty was there for the first year. I'll be really curious to see how the ratings go for year number 2. And they're planning on doing more of these. So I'm going to be curious to see if the level of competition will have anything to do with viewership. And we'll know about that next week. Also, I mentioned that football is sort of kind of coming up. Well, preseason is definitely going to be in full swing starting this weekend. So, I'm sure all your questions about your Steelers quarterback situation are going to be answered. And no, it's not going to be in one weekend. But we wanted to mention the preseason because really only diehards of NFL teams, I think, really watch full preseason games, and maybe because they're just ready to not watch baseball anymore. But we wanted to let you all know that starting next week, over the next 3 weeks, we're going to have an NFL preview talking about the AFC next week, the NFC the following week, and then in 3 weeks, we'll be having a sort of a bold predictions and maybe even talk about some fantasy football over the next 3 weeks. So, Ivan, I know you and I have been in a football league together for fantasy football league for 20 plus years now, if you can believe it. Does it feel like fall is in the air right now and you're ready for some football?
Actually, no. It's really weird this year, and I think it has something to do with the NFL running later and later and we're just coming out of this pandemic crunch. We just had the Olympics, 2020 Olympics in 2021. Then we try to have the Winter Olympics, which I didn't really get into because I just felt I was burnt out from the Olympics of the summer. It's just really interesting right now. So I'm hoping next week I'll feel more into it.
Well, check us out next week. We'll have that NFL preview starting over the next 3 weeks, starting next week with the AFC. But thanks again for checking us out. For Ivan Anderson, Tom Kelly, I'm Josh Banker. Clutch Time Sports right here on TNCRadio.live. Have a great night, everybody.
That all.